Are you ready to unlock the secrets of brand innovation? Here you'll discover unexpected ways to make your brand soar in value. Get ready for inspiring stories, actionable tips, and insights you'll need to build your brand and learn an entirely new way to fly. This is the Hummingbird Effect. And now your host, Wendy Coulter.
Welcome back to the Hummingbird Effect, everyone. Today we're going to be interviewing our host, Wendy Coulter, CEO of Hummingbird Creative Group. Wendy is a true expert in strategic marketing and building strong brands. She's helped countless businesses unlock the power of their brand and achieve incredible results. Normally, Wendy would be hosting the show, but we wanted to let you all in on what the Hummingbird Effect means to her and how she's seen it be successful time after time. Wendy, before we deep dive, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to now?
Okay, so it's been 29 years almost today, and it's been quite a journey, but I want to make this a hummingbird effect because that's what this podcast is all about. So I'm going to go way back. I'm going to go back more than 29 years. Okay, so I was a little girl in a shoe store that my dad owned in Statesville, North Carolina, small town. He would put me in the town parade. He would let me ride the elephant out in front of the shoe store. There was a lot of guerrilla kind of marketing tactics going on when you own a little store in a small town.
I feel like you just glossed over the fact that there was an elephant outside of the shoe store. Shoe stores have.
Yeah, so that's our producer, Joe. Right. Yes, there was an elephant outside of the shoe store. And so what I didn't know when I was a little girl is that I was doing marketing and advertising and promotions, and that would become part of my world because I went on to go to School of Design at NC State. I got degrees in architecture and industrial design. I did do a minor in communications. And I had been selling all my life for sure, whether it was in the shoe store or in retail activities that I had done. But I just didn't realize that the journey would come to where it is with owning a branding company and really becoming engrossed really in what branding is. And so there was this hummingbird effect, right? This little girl who, was trying to help her dad sell shoes and probably didn't always planned to be in the shoe store, but was there every single day and doing all these promotions. And then design school, which seemed a little disconnected at the time. And then that led me to do a lot of graphic design when I first came out of college and when I was starting Hummingbird. And then now there's this strategy. And so that's the Hummingbird Effect. It has been a 30-year journey with the company. And I think the neat thing about kind of where we are today is when I think about the Hummingbird Effect and kind of how it relates to the journey that I'm taking with my clients is as they make these little tweaks within their business, they see these big results in other areas. So we make these little marketing tweaks that can really help guide them to have a higher value of their business. It can lead to things that happen with their culture within their companies. It can obviously lead to sales success. And I think all that ties together to this idea of the Hummingbird Effect and how it's been a part of my life as well.
That's really cool. So you kind of already touched on it, but you had a Hummingbird Effect the entire time and just weren't aware of it. And you mentioned it feeling disconnected in college, but you stayed true to what you always knew and followed that path to where you are now, which is a very successful business, and you're helping a lot of other businesses. So it's awesome to see. So I would love to hear a few examples of how you've seen companies achieve these results that you've touched on by making those small tweaks.
So one of my favorite client stories is about Kymanox. And Kymanox, we started working with them quite a few years ago. And we started out with this really homegrown message that, the CEO had worked through. And he's a brilliant marketing mind, Stephen Perry, who I hope to have on the show someday. And we had a get more done message. We had done some market research to make sure that that particular message resonated with the audience. But as we were doing that market research, we also interviewed some internal employees, which I thought was just brilliant that we got to the place that we did with it, because one of the employees on video talked about how caring the team at Hummingbird is, and what a wonderful place to work that it is, and what wonderful core values the company holds. And that led to an aha moment for me where I said, well, Hummingbird cares. And we rolled this out as part of an ad campaign pitch where Hummingbird cares was the headline. And I really wanted it to be all about how they were serving patients. So they're in the life sciences space, and how the end user who really gets impacted by the work that they do are the patients. And so I felt like the cares message was really going to resonate in that way as well. But what happened that is amazing, that is completely disconnected from that ad campaign, is the wife of the CEO, Sarah Perry, decided, well, let's see if we can get the employees involved in a culture committee. And let's call it Hummingbird Cares, because that really is the essence of what we want to build our culture to be. And it really resonates with our values. And so she asked the team if anyone wanted to be a part of the Hummingbird Cares committee. So today, that committee is like the company's legacy. It's the way that they give back to the community. These groups of people come together and do all kinds of community projects. They give money to different organizations in different towns where they have different offices. And, this will be a legacy that will live as people come and go. And it really is making an impact on communities, which is not what we meant to happen when we came up with the campaign idea. And so I just think it's really cool, a really cool example of how something that we did that had a marketing and advertising strategy connected to it originally has morphed into something much bigger than that really impacts the culture of the organization.
So this ad campaign that they started with evolved from external to internal and ended up having a larger impact than they ever thought that it would.
Exactly.
Interesting. Do you have any other examples that you could share?
Yeah, so I'm going to share one that you were involved in last year. We had a client that internally, they were working on a new why statement, right? And, this was a high-level strategic activity with the C-level in the company. And when they developed the new why statement, and I always say, I love it when clients share things that they're doing with us, because it can lead to a new idea. And so they shared. And we learned that they were working on this new why statement, and they actually asked us to be a part of that process. But at the end of the day, a couple of the C-levels came together and they came up with the new why statement. And when they presented it back to me, I said, oh, well, why don't we roll this out at your annual meeting? And let's make this more than this internal thing that the two of you are kind of, you're just going to roll it out to the leadership team. Let's roll this out to the whole company, because this is, it's like core values. A why statement is like this really foundational written statement that really does need to affect everything. And so you got to help us, build a big backdrop for the stage. And we literally put the why statement in neon lights.
We did.
Right? And now that neon sign is hanging in their office on the wall, like right as you go through the front door. So everybody who comes into the office can see it. So again, like the other story, something that was really probably meant to be more of an internal leadership team decision that got shared with us as our marketing team, their branding agency, we went back and said, hey, this is a great strategy that can help you create messaging to your external audience too, when they're coming into your space and they're experiencing your culture. And so again, just a client sharing with us something that they were doing that impacted something else that they weren't even thinking about it. And it was a great way to get the whole team excited about this new why statement. Everyone in the company knows the why statement. Like it wasn't like this small rollout from the top down or that even got stuck at the top of the organization. Everybody knows it now, and the clients know it.
Are you ready to find your own Hummingbird Effect and enable your brand to take flight? Wendy would love to chat with you. Schedule a 30-minute call with her to discuss how she can help transform your brand. Visit the link in the show notes to book your appointment or send an email to wendy@hummingbird-creative.com. Take your brand to new heights. Schedule your quick 30-minute call today.
So I've heard you say it before about staying true to your values and to your brand. And this one, opposite of the story before, was internal. And I've even seen them use this message on their external promotional items, emails to clients, things of that nature. So they stayed true to something that's really important to them, their why. It was something that they all want to live. And now their customers and people that experience them are getting to have that experience of their why statement as well. So I think that that's really cool to see how just telling you that they wanted to create this statement and you saying, well, hey, it's bigger than just you, has created this monumental change for their company.
Exactly.
I think we even had a little bit of a Hummingbird effect happen in our office this week. The team was working on a social media post for a client, and it stemmed from an idea that we were seeing a lot of competitors do. And we wanted to be with it. We wanted to follow these trends. So we set out to find something that was different, that wasn't exactly copying them, but followed the same structure. And whenever we got the results back, I think you ended up guiding us in a different direction because we weren't necessarily following the true brand that we have created for this client.
Right. I think we weren't being true to the values, the culture, the brand. We were seeing something competitors are doing, and we were seeing trends. And we were trying to make sure that we're competing. But in that sense, it started to look too much like the other companies.
Right.
And so when I saw it in the office, I was like, okay, how do I guide the team to understand what's not quite right about this? And it really was that the tone of voice was not quite right because it was the tone of voice of the competitor. The graphic treatment was not in the same style. And so it was exactly what we were going for in the sense of the trend, but it wasn't true to brand and true to really like the culture and the values of the company. And so, yes, I mean, that tweak, I think we're seeing a much better result from now.
And the client was also happy to hear that we had taken that into consideration because this was a client-driven request. They wanted to compete in this space that they were seeing other people do. And we gave them the first round. And that's when you reeled it back in and said, hey, maybe this isn't on brand. And when we had that conversation, they appreciated that more than they would have appreciated us just posting this to appease the competition.
I think what we always have to remember in marketing and it's hard and I'll always say it's like tone of voice. Like it's hard to have a different tone of voice when you have your own tone of voice in your head, right? I think I said that on a similar call this week as well, is when you're looking at what competitors are doing and you want to compete with them, the easiest way to do that is to try to do the same thing. But what you really need to be doing is something different that is true to your goals. And I think even at the top level, that boat gets missed a whole lot in marketing.
So I think what's interesting from all the stories you guys told is you keep saying like it's a small tweak from a Hummingbird thing. And I think what clicked for me is the small tweak is it's not different or outside of their personality. So it doesn't feel like a big twist for the client because it's small seemingly because it's in alignment with their values and everything they've done in the past that's got them to this place. But it doesn't mean that it's not going to have a giant impact. The other thing that I saw that I think is a common thread is that both of the examples that you guys talked about were really simple things. They weren't like, oh, let's change and do a whole new thing. It was clarifyingly simple. Like, here's like 2 words. Oh yeah, that's it. We should do that.
Right. Exactly. And sometimes 2 words makes a really, really, really big difference. Or just remembering the basics, to stay true to your values, to use a tone of voice that is true to your brand, and to not get caught up in the crazy trends just for the trend's sake can really make you actually stand out in your space.
Yeah. And to touch on what Joe was just saying about the small change, what kind of popped in my head is the Hummingbird Effect and the evolution. The small change, the small tweak is what already exists. And that's kind of where everything that we've talked about as well is these small things that already existed back then that affect us now. So staying true to your brand is important.
So I think, from everything that we've said, the thing to take away from this is to, just realize it's small tweaks that lead to big results. You don't have to chase trends. You need to really keep yourself focused in on what is your brand, what things have you come up with that are foundational, and stick to it.
So these are all really good examples that we've talked about, but I'm sure it's not always easy. So what's the biggest challenge that you face or your clients face when they're experiencing their Hummingbird Effect?
Yeah. So I think the biggest challenge for the agency sometimes is that we're working with a lot of the different teams and they don't always, they'll make a request based on a trend they see, or they'll make a request based on something they have in their mind that isn't necessarily true to brand because they're not thinking that way every day. Whether it's, an engineering team at a client, even a sales team, even though they're seeing the branding and the marketing activity that's being done, they've not been an integral part of it. And so sometimes they ask for things that are out of brand and navigating that conversation. And I always say, give them what they ask for and give them something better, but the something better be on brand and better. We've got to make sure they understand why it's better. Right. And so I think that's a big challenge. Internally with the team, I will say I find that my personal biggest challenge, and this is a leadership thing for me that I'm learning, so I guess there could be a Hummingbird Effect that'll come out of this for me personally, is I have a lot of strategic work that I've done with clients that isn't as visible as maybe it needs to be with the team. Sometimes I remember, when we were in a conversation yesterday, I remembered, oh my gosh, we did all these tone of voice activities and it never made it into the brand guide that our team uses all the time. And as much as I say it out loud to the team, they haven't seen it and they don't have it right at their fingertips all the time. And I think that branding is complicated. Marketing is complicated. There's all these different pieces and parts that you're drawing from to make sure you're staying true to brand. And we, as much as we try, sometimes it's hard for everyone involved to be informed as well as they should be. And so I think as marketing leaders, we just should try to remember to inform everyone that has to do with the brand, even if we feel like we're over-informing, what all these elements are, so that the end result is really good and really makes sense.
Those are really good points. And what I heard from it is to not always be concerned on what other companies or other people are doing and to try to stay true to your brand. And in the marketing world and as the agency, to be willing to have those conversations with your clients to make sure that they understand the decisions you're making and they can in turn stay true to their brand as well. So as we're wrapping up, is there one key takeaway that you would like your audience to remember about the Hummingbird Effect?
There is. I think the thing that we all have to remember in business is that it's these small changes that lead to big impacts, and that you don't have to be focused on, the biggest outcome and all the struggle to get there, but really looking at your internal strategies and tweaking them over time to make them better and better and better will have the longest term impact with branding.
Well, thank you, Wendy.
Thanks for listening to the podcast, everyone. I hope you'll subscribe and get on the path to finding your own Hummingbird Effect.
Thanks for listening to the Hummingbird Effect with Wendy Coulter. We hope you found this episode valuable. Please be sure to rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more or to work with Wendy and her team, go to hummingbird-creative.com.